Okay, I got to tell you about my shirt real quick. Is that okay? Uh, Hope, Believe, Obey is an organization that a friend of mine has started that is trying to make adoption of third world countries and be able to make that happen a lot more fluent, I guess, so to speak. And so whether it be China, Africa, wherever, and they're trying to get grants and funds for people to be able to adopt and make that easy as they're in that process. And so they came up with these shirts, and he said, hey, would you wear the shirt? I was like, if you give it to me for free, I'll talk about it. So that's what we're doing here. So if that sparks an interest in you, adoption, things like that, contact me, and I'll get you connected into the right spot and maybe get you a free shirt. Holla. Okay, so, all right. As a kid, I had a weird childhood, not because my parents weren't great parents. They're amazing parents. I mean, they're crazier than me, but they're awesome, okay? But growing up in the ghetto in the 90s was kind of the weird thing, okay? Because, I mean, I was in the world of Milli Vanilli, okay? Like, I miss Milli Vanilli. You heard it here. And whatever happened to Crisscross? Like, who's making me jump now, right? I mean, I don't get it. Well, and as a kid, I like to pray a lot, okay? I prayed very verbose prayers, very merrily down the street, and thank you for grass. And it was random prayer, okay? I would pray all kinds of weird things. And so, a lunchtime or dinner time prayer would turn into like a whole, worship service. And so I was thinking back about that, though, and looking over, I also prayed some pretty powerful prayers as a kid. And so it's like random, thank you for this, that, and my mom's pinky because she has a real cool pinky. I don't know. And God, thank you for your power and your might, and you're awesome. And I was like, whoa. And many of you have children that do the same, and you're like, wow, where did that come from? Like, I think, Jesus said, out of the mouth of babes. You're like, whoa, golly. And today, we're going to look at a prayer that this week I found, and I'm just going, oh my word, out of nowhere. You see, we started off in this sociology series, and we talked a little bit about Seuss and some of the different characteristics, but then somehow we got moved over to faith and how that it's just really resonated with everybody. And the first week, we talked about how that God's up to something new, that spring is coming despite how bad it might look, spring's around the corner. And then we looked at the life of Abraham, where we're seeing, wow, this guy lived by such radical faith that he was able to have faith and not even see the promise. Like, what if we live by that type of faith? And then last week we talked about, what did we, hold on. Okay, Lion's Den. We talked about Lion's Den, Daniel chapter 6. I remember now. Okay, I'm back. And we talked about how that God can shut the mouths of lions, that he's still shutting the mouths of lions today. And it's so amazing. And so today I'm so excited. I had 12 school assignments due this past week by Friday night, and I was in such a bad mood because I was so excited about this. I was like, oh, school, I don't even want to do it, blah, 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 blah. I don't even know what my grades are going to be, but it's okay. Because this passage, I didn't even know it existed. There's a pastor that I follow out of Charlotte, North Carolina. He's my age. He's a preacher named Stephen Furtick, and he is unbelievable. I got a pastor crush on him. I'm just going to call it. I'm going to call it out there. Rob Bell is definitely my number one, and I will remain faithful and true to him. But Stephen Furtick's right up there because the dude can straight preach. I mean, it's just unbelievable. And so I got an advanced copy of this book called Sun Stand Still. And in reading it, I was able to see a passage in Joshua that I had no idea existed. And see, Joshua kind of gets put to the side and neglected because he was the successor to Moses, okay? And so like anyone who comes after someone great, we tend not to really recognize their greatness. For instance, like whoever came after John Wooden at UCLA, tough guy, right? Or think about the next guy to wear number 23 for the Chicago Bulls. You know what I mean? Like, not exactly going to go well for you, right? And that's kind of what's happening here with Joshua. It's like, okay, Joshua, you might be cool, but Moses was like the dude, okay? Like, he was the dude of dudes. He's like the Old Spice guy. I mean, Moses was that guy, you know what I mean? And so here's Joshua comes on the scene, and now, okay, it's Old Spice, and then what's the other guy that's like the man, you know? they could fight. Is it a beer commercial? Oh, sorry. My bad. Kids, scratch that from the record, Your Honor. Anyway, so Moses was a really strong dude, and God, you're amazing. Okay, so Joshua comes on the scene, and he is a great man of God. He is a great leader. He is wise and brilliant. He is someone that's character should be emulated. In Joshua 1:9, we see that really this is the theme of the whole book of Joshua, to be strong and courageous, to not be terrified, to not be discouraged, for the Lord your God will be with you wherever you go. And that was the story of Joshua's life. That was, if you could sum him up, that's what it was. And so Joshua, as his goal was to get the Israelites into Canaan, the promised land, and to defeat the other nations that occupied that to fulfill God's promises, okay? And so we see that the whole book is leading up to this and gives stories about this, that there are all these miracles, how that God opened up the sea and put the waters up on its edge as he took them through the Jordan River, and that there was another little miracle where Joshua fought a battle in Jericho, and the walls came, you know what I'm talking about? And they walked around, the walls came down, a little old school. Something about Sunday school songs, I just love them. Even though that teacher that taught me Father Abraham wrong, I'm still pretty mad about that. And I got to work through that. Okay, so this is the third miracle that we see. And what's happening is it's Joshua is about to take out, I think they're about to take out this army called Ai. So I'm like, Ai, uh-oh, okay. So just like, hey, maybe it's, obviously I don't know what it is. He's about to take out this army, okay? And listen to what he prays in chapter, I don't know, showed up here. On the day the Lord gave the Amorites over to Israel, Joshua said to the Lord in the presence of Israel, sun, stand still over Gibeon, and you, moon, over the valley of Ajalon. So the sun stood still, and the moon stopped, till the nation avenged itself on its enemies, as is written in the book of Jashar. The sun stopped in the middle of the sky and delayed going down about a full day. There's never been a day like it before or since, a day when the Lord listened to a human being. Surely the Lord was fighting for Israel. So, let me get this straight. I'm talking to myself, by the way. Joshua was in a battle and needed more light, so he prayed to the sun to stand still and for the moon to remain in its place. Who prays like that? If someone heard you praying that, they would put you in the loony bin. I mean, you can't move the sun or the moon. I mean, you know, it's big. It's like way big, okay? I mean, it's bigger than Texas. And here he goes and prays, sun, stand still. And I like the way he said it here. He said, you, moon, you know, like little old moon, stay in your place. And it did, so that God's purposes could be fulfilled. And so a challenge for us is last week we were kind of reactive. It's like when we're in the lion's den and this is happening to us, what's going to be the result? And God will shut the mouths of the lions. This week is more proactive. Like I'm going to like last week was God can take our mess and turn it into a miracle. This week is more of like God can take a mistake and turn it into a miracle. And God, we can be proactive in our prayers, and because there was a mistake made that we see in our text that is part of this backstory. Because, I don't know, I think my jokes are funnier to me than what they really are. You know people that are like that? That's me, okay? I'm like, hey, hanger. Ah, man, I'm crazy, man. Okay. And sometimes in the Bible, and preachers are really horrible about this, we'll find out something in the Bible, and we'll be like, this is the most amazing thing in the world. And y'all are like, that's cool. Like, we landed on the moon. You're like, yeah, long time ago. And so maybe this is just me, but this excites me like no other, because my God made the sun stand still in order to accomplish his purposes. Now, here's where it gets interesting. In Joshua chapter 9, we see that Joshua, as they're going around defeating armies and defeating nations and doing their thing, I mean, they're like big old battle, you know, Maximus, Russell Crowe type gladiator army that are going in and just destroying folks, okay? And they're taking over these kingdoms one by one by one. I'm talking about all the bites, the flea bites and the Moabites and all the bites and cookie bites and I don't know, whatever else. I'm really hungry right now, burning calories. And so conquering, and people get wind of this. They're like, okay, these are some bad dudes, okay? Do not mess with them. And so one of the nations that they were about to get involved with came up with a plan. And they said, we are going to make an alliance with Joshua. If you can't beat them, join them. And so they disguise Joshua and his leaders in order to make this alliance. Like, we can partner up with you. We need your help. And Joshua and them agreed. We see that Joshua 9:14, in this process, that the men of Israel sampled their provision but did not inquire of the Lord. Key right there. Joshua, who was told by God that we are going to get you into the promised land, you're God's mouthpiece, I'm going to speak through you. They made a decision and made an agreement with another nation in which they didn't inquire the Lord. They didn't ask him, okay? So up until all this time, they've been, okay, God, we rely on you, we depend on you, we ask you, whatnot, and then you've been victorious. Here, they didn't inquire of the Lord. So what we see in chapter 10, when Joshua is praying for the sun to stand still, it's so they can have more light, and so if it gets dark, their enemies won't disappear. The ironic thing is, Joshua was fighting a battle that he wasn't supposed to fight. The reason they were fighting that battle was because other tribes got wind that Joshua and the Israelites made an alliance with these other bites. And so all the other bites over here got mad at the bites over here, and there's about to be a big bite fight or something. So Joshua had to keep the treaty, the alliance that he made with them, so that he was defending them. So in Joshua 10, we see Joshua's defending an army, fighting a fight that he wasn't supposed to fight because he made an alliance without seeking the Lord. Are we tracking? Making sense? So what this means for us is more than history, more than whatnot, that God performed a miracle in the midst of someone's mistake. It's one thing for God to perform a miracle, period. But how amazing is it that our God is big enough and strong enough and gracious enough to perform a miracle in the midst of a mistake? That's pretty amazing. So powerful that even despite the disobedience, I'm going to pause the sun. And this is how I think it relates to us. We share something in common with them and with each other. We make alliances with things and people and situations without inquiring of the Lord. And these alliances get us in trouble. And these alliances have us fighting battles and victories that we were never meant to fight. The addiction, the pain, the hurt, from these partnerships that we make without partnering and inquiring of the Lord get us to where we're in a mess. It started with a drink, or it just started with this drug, or it started with this fad, or it started with this pattern, and we end up being further away. We end up taking us so much, it's like we never intended it to get bad. I mean, I don't think addicts ever intended to become addicts, and people that break hearts never intended to break hearts, but sometimes we make alliances that are out of the bounds of the Lord, and we find ourselves in need of rescue, regardless of what it is. And everybody's got them. I mean, if we were to have them all, list them all out here, we'd be here all day like talking about, oh, here's this and here's that. I mean, it is. And so what happens then is we get to a spot where we feel like God couldn't possibly use me to accomplish his purpose, or God couldn't use me to do great things, or God is mad at me, or God isn't blessing me. All these different things because of these alliances. And what happens here is that God is greater than the alliances and the choices that we've made. And in fact, he can make the sun stand still and put pause on your life and go, I am not done with them yet. I can still accomplish my purpose through them. And how amazing is that? That's good news. That's good stuff right there. So how amazing is it? So God can take our mistakes and he can turn them into miracles. And to believe that God can take our mistakes and turn them into miracles, that God can put the sun still in our lives today. We might not know what it looks like. We might not know, might not be what we ask for or how we ask for. But God is still in the business of making the sun stand still. And so, what would it look like for a group of people who actually believe that, okay? And then it changed our prayer life to where we started praying crazy prayers, like that no one would know or make sense, but our God made the sun stand still. So what's this in light of that? And what if we really believed it? And what if we really believed that God could take us as flawed people that have made mistakes and use our lives for his purpose and to make miracles out of that? I want to share with you just a couple of scriptures that really just for me build up this faith. Psalm 48:14, at the end of the psalm, he talked about these attributes of God. The psalmist says, "For this is our God forever and ever. He will be our guide even to the end." Let's just keep them rolling, and I'll explain that our God forever and ever. I love this one. Where's the young? Okay, I was young, now I'm old. Yet I've never seen the righteous forsaken or children begging bread. That at the end of his life, the psalmist says, "I've been young, I'm old, I've seen it all, but there's one thing I haven't seen. I haven't seen the righteous forsaken." Awesome. Okay, this next one, Jesus is saying, he looked at them intently and said, "Humanly speaking, it is impossible, but with God, everything is possible." How powerful. Next one. Oh, this is a good one. "Now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we ask or imagine, according to his power that is at work within us. To him be the glory. To him who's able to do more than we ask or imagine, according to the power that is at work within us." His power. Nice. Next one. Jeremiah, "This is what the Lord said. The Lord who made the earth, who formed it, established it, the Lord is his name." Check this out. "Call to me and I will answer you." He could have stopped right there. That's good enough. "And tell you great and unsearchable things that you do not know." Whoa. "Call to me and I'll answer you, and I'll tell you great and unsearchable things that you don't know." So, the God who answers prayer. That's my definition of God for the week. The God who answers prayer. It might not be how we like, or it might not make sense at the time, but the God who answers prayer. So, my challenge is, let's start praying and activating our faith by praying such bold prayers for our life and our family, for God's kingdom and God's movement, that we literally pray that God would just stand still at the sun. And how cool is it that the same God that put the sun and moon and stars into place has the ability to hold them and pause them and do whatever he would like, but then that same God has the ability to hold us in his hand. So this big, huge, massive hand, and now is saying, "I hold your world in my hand. I hold it right here. And in fact, nothing can take you from my hand." And that promise is so affirming. You know, people say, "Gosh, I like coming to the bridge, but you sing songs and you repeat the same words over and over and over again." I'm like, yeah, that's my fault. Because I have to have things beat into me to get them to make sense. So like, it's not one thing for me to go, "Okay, our God is greater, our God is stronger." No, I need to like 10 times. Our God is greater, our God is stronger, our God is greater, our God is stronger. Like, hello, 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 hello. And so this past 4 weeks, basically I feel like God's been just wanting to beat it into our brains and get it into our hearts and spirit. You can trust me. You can trust me. You can trust me. You can trust me. I'm trustworthy. I'm dependable. You can trust me. And if we get that, if we can get that God is trustworthy, I think we'll be so pleased and happy. Just because it says that faith pleases God, that it wins his affection and his trust, and it's so affirming to him. And so as we continue in worship, and as we go from here, what would it look like for us to be God, make the sun stand still prayers, and believe that? And believe that our mistakes cannot prevent future miracles, and that God can still use us for his purpose, and will use us for his purpose. And that he's trustworthy. And the same God that holds our world in his hands is the same God that was able to pause and put the stillness on the sun and the moon.